Welcome back to, I think this is like the fourth reboot of Talkin Gimmicks. As usual, the bearded crew, by the way, I have the shittiest beard nowadays of the group. We've got all the way from Rochester, New York, looking like a sophisticated man with a map in the background and everything. Joey, what's up, man?
Yeah, hey, Julio, Ryan. 6 months, I think it's been, right, since we last recorded.
I think
Lots,
Yeah,
so.
just
lots
about.
changed. Lots changed in life, my life, and over here, new setup. I'm in a new house, so good to see you guys.
And of
Yeah, you
course, with
too.
us as well, we've got from also Texas, our very own Luke Harper. Ryan, what's up, man?
Yeah. What's up, guys? I'm doing good. How about y'all?
I'm doing pretty good, man. It's been a lot of wrestling consumed this week, a lot of crazy stuff to talk about, and I think after we took our hiatus with our shoot life stuff, I think we're back. Getting back into rhythm and just trying to enjoy it for what it is. Today we've got basically two things. We're gonna just kind of talk a little bit about what's going on in the world of wrestling and our what we've been watching, what we've been paying attention to, and then as usual we got our retro wrestling, which is very fitting to the weekend. We watched our Survivor Series from 1990. Uh, as you guys know, Survivor Series is today here in Houston. Uh, so kind of in the spirit of that, we're going to talk a little bit about that Pape, as Joey, who wants to be the last man in the world to call them Papes. Uh, so let's get started. We'll start with like some just recent stuff. I know. Let's talk a little bit about this year's Survivor Series. I know we've been following a little bit the build. I know Joey was a big or is a big Maharaja fan. So what do you guys think about the build up? What are you guys looking forward to, if anything? Um, what do you got, Joey?
Well, I think the thing, like you said, with the Maharaja, I know they were trying to get over the product with India, as a country, and it just really didn't seem like it worked too well. I was reading that they had two shows scheduled, and they actually, probably because of ticket sales, they actually ended up making it one show now. So that plays a lot of part, and probably taking the title off him and giving it to AJ because they know he's more well known and he can carry the title a little bit better. But I was a
So
little pissed, you know what I mean? But he had a good run. The Maharaja had a hell of a run.
I mean, if you guys follow Joey at Joey Shoots on Twitter, he's a big Maharaja fan. So I know it was a kind of a bummer for him to not have Maharaja against Brock Lesnar, which, we'll go through the card, but that's kind of, I don't know. I felt a lot of people were split on that. Like a lot of people didn't care for it, whereas some people did. Uh, whereas I think Brock Lesnar and AJ Styles is getting a bigger buzz. It'll be interesting to see how they book that to make it credible, at least, because they're both different sides. Like Brock is way bigger. Like how are they gonna book that in a way where AJ can look realistic in terms of, of that? I see you, not Ryan, nodding your head. What do you think?
Oh man, I just it's one of those things that we've seen this Brock Lesnar match play out so many times now that yeah, I do question how do you even have a credible match that doesn't just wind up with Joey Styles or AJ Styles getting the shit beat out of him. I don't see it working out for AJ.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a hard sell. I mean, AJ's more than capable of making it work, and even in his New Japan days, he worked against bigger guys and made it look good. But I have no clue how that's going to come out, or how they're going to make it where both of the guys look good after the match. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. Kind of, who do you guys think is gonna win in that match? Who's going over? Has to be Brock, right? I
I
think.
say Brock.
All right, Joey.
Um, I say AJ in a surprising fashion.
Oh
Somehow.
wow.
Yeah.
Maybe like some sort of shenanigans.
Some sort of schmaz finish or something, you know what I mean? Some kind of like disqualification even. Some kind of shit where it's just kind of, you know.
It's gotta be all right. Yeah.
Because you'd think that Brock would come in there and crush him within a minute or two based on size. But, I mean, if AJ, uses his offense to his advantage and everything, he can get some quick moves in there and maybe damage the beast. So it should be interesting.
Yeah, right. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that'll be good.
I'm also looking forward to New Day versus Shield. I don't know about you guys, but I am looking forward to this trios matchup.
Nice little transition. Let's talk about New Day and the Shield. I mean, it's interesting that they paired those two groups in a match. I think just strictly from a wrestling standpoint, I think it's going to be a really good, entertaining match with like some crazy spots. I don't see any way in the world that the Shield loses that
match. Oh yeah, sure. I don't guess I'm so interested in like the stakes, and I really haven't been keeping up with what's been going on in WWE prior to this. So to me, I'm just looking at this like, okay, these are two great WWE trios that we'll get to see on this day. So
yeah, I think from that standpoint, just from a entertainment value standpoint, I think it's going to be a pretty good match, and I think it's a good build for the Shield to give them another, already solid faction or group in the New Day and have them win. And at the same time, I think the New Day can come out looking good, going, toe to toe with those guys, which are some of the top guys. So, Joey, what do you think about that one before we wrap it up? Who's winning?
New Day.
New Day?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, another surprise, finish here somehow.
All right.
I think it's, not too common nowadays to have, 3-man teams as talented as these two, So I'm really looking forward to this match. Good chemistry. I feel like it should really might be the best match of the evening, quite possibly.
Okay, I can see that for sure. All right, let's move on to the tag team champion. The tag team champions from both brands going at it. I'm kind of looking forward to this because I think it could be really good. And I'm talking about here the Usos, who are the SmackDown champions, versus Sheamus and Cesaro, the Bar, who are the Raw champions. I mean, the Usos, ever since they became, the Dark Usos, have become way more entertaining for me. They're credible as like tough, badass guys. I think them against a team as tough as Cesaro and Sheamus, especially, talk about tough. Cesaro got his teeth knocked back into his skull and then had to pull him down. Like, that's some crazy shit. So, I don't know. What do you guys think about that, the tag team match? I think that might be a show stealer.
Man, I'm excited to see Swiss Superman as always. I'm glad that these guys as a tag team are together still and that they're crushing it. I'm excited to see this new form of the Usos. Like, yeah, I usually when I've seen them as champions, it's been incredibly boring and it seems like a placeholder to me and not necessarily like they're champs because they really are the best guys in the ring. So I look forward to it.
Who do you
see if
think
they can step up?
Who do you think's winning that one?
My money's on the big guys, the Bar.
The Bar, gotcha. Joey, what do you think? I know you with that beanie. Did you guys see when Rusev became Usev?
Yeah, that's right.
You've got the Usev look going on today, Joey, with the beanie and everything.
I don't have Lana here though.
Oh well,
But yeah, as far as the match, yeah, Cesaro and Sheamus. When they first got together, I really didn't like them as a team, but I mean they've definitely grown on me over the time. Two legitimate guys that really are good at what they do, and then they formed a hell of a tag team now. And the Usos, like you're saying, before when were doing like the Hawaiian or Samoan or whatever they were doing, whatever that shit they were doing before, I don't know, no clue. That was a little corny, man. But now that they're fucking Uso Penitentiary and they're Daytona-ish, like I'm down with the heel Usos, man. They're pretty cool. So
that Uso Penitentiary thing is just fantastic. Like,
so they're repping incarceration.
But
Yeah, it's great, man.
no one I guess
All right.
they're trying to sell us the image that there's no one tougher than someone who's been incarcerated. So
Hey, I'm down with that.
I actually think that the Bar is winning this one as well, just because they just got out of a program against Rollins and Ambrose. Having them lose to the Usos would kind of diminish that a little bit. So I definitely think they're winning. But just sidebar, I would love to see the Bar wrestle maybe in the future in like New Japan. I think their style, like that physical style, they don't really have to be, cut promos over there. Just have to kick ass, and that's what they're really good at
I would
doing.
love to see that.
Next, we have and this is the only. Well, I think this is the one of two traditional Survivor Series matches, and we'll start with the women's Survivor Series match. 5 against 5, classic Survivor Series. They have to eliminate the whole team, and we've got, I think, from Raw, it's Naomi, Carmella, Nia Jax, a mystery partner in Becky Lynch against Sasha, Asuka, Fox. I'm confused right now, but it's.
I feel like you got it mixed up, kind of, to be honest with you.
I got it mixed up. I think I botched that.
Yeah.
I totally botched that. Go ahead.
Something. All right, here we go.
You put Nia Jax in the first team, but she's
Yeah.
not there.
She's not there.
Okay.
So basically, it's Team Raw, Alicia Fox, Nia Jax, Asuka, Sasha Banks, and Bayley versus Team SmackDown, Becky Lynch, Carmella, Naomi, Tamina, and Natalya.
See, I confused Tamina with Nia Jax.
Yeah, they're kind of similar to each other.
I confused them, so that's on me.
Okay, no problem.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how that thing's gonna shake down. I don't know who's gonna win. I don't know what your thoughts are. I mean, Alexa Bliss is in there, right?
No.
She's not. Oh well, she's my favorite. So if she's not in there,
She's one of my favorites too. No, she's not in that match. It should be pretty good.
Asuka's like probably the most credible person really in there. So, which is kind of jacked up because Alicia Fox is really been in there in WWE for so long, but in terms of being the real powerhouse, and then Bayley. So I would say Team SmackDown, I guess, or are they Team Raw?
They're Team Raw.
Team Raw is Nia Jax, Asuka, Sasha Banks.
Okay. Rock on.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't watch the TV.
On paper, I would have to go with Team Raw. Bayley, Sasha Banks, and Asuka, and Nia Jax alone. With Alicia Fox as the captain. I feel like probably get the in this one.
Yeah, I think Team Raw as well. I think, like you guys were saying, Asuka, who was undefeated in NXT and kind of had to hand over her belt when she moved. Plus Nia Jax, who I think that they should book her in a way that the way they book Brock Lesnar, and have her just run through that whole division and then set it up against someone like Asuka or someone who they've built up more carefully as another powerhouse. So yeah, I think Team Raw is going to get that one. And then
if we really want to take the time to break this down, but I personally don't believe that you can book Nia Jax like Brock Lesnar, right? I mean, because how did Brock Lesnar establish his credibility? Number one, he killed a legend, but number two, he bloodied a legend in John Cena when he came out in Chicago.
But I mean, and I know
and Randy Orton over the forehead, right?
Yeah,
big
I
time.
don't think WWE will ever do that. But could you imagine, Nia Jax against Charlotte, and Nia Jax just bloodies Charlotte? Like, that would be insanely cool. But that's never gonna happen.
Right. So for me, I still don't buy Nia Jax, and honestly, I don't know if I ever really can, because the way they book women's matches doesn't lend itself to power being important.
Well,
Go ahead, Jay.
I think just a lot of it is they try to get so many in one segment too that it just kind of takes away from a lot of their abilities and shit too.
Yeah.
like, it's a 5-on-5. Obviously, it's Survivor Series, but like most times there's a women's match on Raw. It's like a 3-on-3, 4-on-4, or a 5-on-5. It's literally just like get as many women in the screen as humanly possible to get them in. You know what I mean? It seems like,
Yeah.
so it feels a little forced. But yeah, I can see what you mean. How Nia Jax, you'd think she'd be some kind of dominant force, but she hasn't really shown me too much over the time. You know what I'm saying? To like really have like a Brock Lesnar issue. I can see what you mean though, because she did do that with a lot of jobbers though. Like
She did.
Like she would have like locals come in and she would squash them in 5 seconds.
Sure, but so did Funkasaurus.
Yeah, exactly. So there comes
so if she's the Brodus Clay of WWE Women's Division, hey, I guess so.
No,
that's not great.
I think she has a really good look. She looks mean, and I think they're never going to book it as a Brock Lesnar because I feel like they kind of put the brakes on the women's division and don't let them do more. Which, if you watch women's wrestling or Joshi wrestling, it's more physical. There's more, there's crazier spots, and I think now WWE is transitioning to that, but it's really slow, so it's not as full as you would expect. So I see your point, but I would have loved seeing Nia Jax become this just unstoppable run through the division character, but maybe the damage is already done and you can't really book her that way. So
yeah,
all good points.
Moving on.
All right, so sticking with the with women, this is champion versus champion. It's Alexa Bliss as the Raw champion and Charlotte Flair, the newly crowned SmackDown champion. She just beat Natalya maybe I think last week or a couple weeks ago. I think this could be pretty good. Like, Charlotte's really good. I think she's the best women's wrestler in the division overall. And not just from a wrestling standpoint, but just as a character and all that. I think she's number one. Asuka probably is the best straight up wrestler, but Charlotte Flair has it put together. And Alexa is my favorite. I honestly think Charlotte's winning this one. I can't see her losing.
I agree.
Joey, thoughts?
Yeah, I'd say Charlotte picks up the victory here also. Is Rick confirmed going to be ringside or anything? Did they say anything about that at all? Or?
I mean, they could still ride the wave from the 30 for 30 and have him out there. They had him out there when she won the SmackDown title.
I feel like he just came out on SmackDown the other night, too, to surprise her. So maybe he'll show up. That'd be kind of cool.
As long as they don't make Rick do something creepy like kiss someone or something like that, like they did not too long ago, and let him just have his moment, I'm down for that.
Yeah, he may do that on his own.
Well, if you guys
who's say that anyone made Ric Flair do anything?
If you watch the 30 for 30, he's kind of a wild card.
I haven't seen that.
All right. Oh, it's pretty good.
Really good, man. Oh, speaking of that, real quick, I went to see One Night Only Ted DiBiase's documentary in the theater with a couple of friends, and that was pretty interesting. Actually, it was the same night the 30 for 30 came out. So at home, I watched 30 for 30, and Flair's shit on that one, man. Oh, my God. Flair's was so good compared to DiBiase's. Because DiBiase's took like a religious turn at the end, which I knew it was going to. But it was still cool seeing the guys, being interviewed and shit like that. So
nice. All right. So we got 2 more matches to cover for SmackDown. The Cruiserweight Championship, Enzo Amore versus Kalisto. At first, I really hated Enzo in the division, but they needed a real heel. Like, I felt like no one on that division was like a real, or was allowed to be a real heel. And I still hate Enzo, but I feel like he has a purpose in that division. I don't know what you guys think.
I really have no context going into this. I've always enjoyed Enzo. My only other real strong opinion is that the gear that Kalisto's got, like his mask in this promo shot, is just really weird. I don't know if this is a new thing for Kalisto, but he kind of looks like he's trying to do like a Drago thing.
He's doing like a double mask. So he has his lucha mask, and then he has like a mask that kind of overlays on it.
Interesting.
Joey, I saw you thumbs downing at Enzo.
Actually, I'm thumbs downing the whole 205 Live thing is the whole concept. Really, I'm really not a fan of the whole thing. But it's kind of fucked up because I like a lot of the wrestlers, and I've followed a lot of the wrestlers from before this and shit. But it's just like I've never watched 205 Live once. I was actually in a building for SmackDown here, and the second SmackDown ended, I walked out right before 205 Live even came on. I'm just not really interested in it, but the cruiserweight shit, it's all right. Like Neville, walking away. He was kind of like the last real heel, I guess, in the 205 Live. You know what I mean? If you really think about it, but Kalisto blocked me on Twitter. I'm not really a fan. So fuck him. I hope he loses. I'm really not a fan of Enzo either. So I hope they both get a double knockout.
Double count out.
Hope they both lose somehow.
Yeah, just to kind of close that out, I think the way they did 205 as its own separate thing instead of integrating it into Raw. Like if you remember WCW, the cruiserweights were one of the best parts of Nitro, and they integrated it into the show and had the great storylines with Jericho and Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero. Whereas I felt by isolating it and making it its own thing, they kind of lost a little bit about that. So we'll see who wins. I hope Kalisto wins because I don't like Enzo, but whatever. All right. We got the Miz against Baron Corbin. I don't care for Baron Corbin. I want the Miz to squash him and just move on. The Miz is great, but I don't care for Baron
Corbin. I'm a big Baron Corbin fan.
Hate really?
Oh yeah,
dude, the Miz is such a good character. Like he might not be the best wrestler, but he's so great.
I respect the path of the Miz. I know that he was on the Real World, Road Rules, whatever that shit was, and I know that he always wanted to be a wrestler, and he was the same character then as he is now, pretty much. But he's turned up, so I respect that. But I just fucking can't stand him. I'll be flat out honest with you.
I feel like Miz, he's got the craft of the performance, and he's really developed a lot over the years that I've watched him, and he's never going to be number one in the ring, for sure, but I'm a Miz fan for sure. Baron Corbin, I still don't think he's come into his character that I've seen. Maybe that'll change tonight, but in the ring, I think he's a credible guy, so I appreciate that he's in the ring, and I hope that he can do more going forward. Yeah, but I don't think he's winning tonight necessarily.
I would agree with that. I think Baron Corbin is one of those guys that could really use like a manager. I feel like someone to give him direction and just let him kick ass. And I think you hammered another good point there with the Miz is that he's never going to be Shinsuke Nakamura or Daniel Bryan or AJ Styles, but the dude gets the sports entertainment side so good that he can push himself to bigger things and better things just out of that. So I think the Miz is winning for sure, but I think Corbin, he just needs a sense of direction, and maybe he could be, more entertaining, I would say. All right, so we'll wrap. This is the last match, which is the second of two traditional Survivor Series matches. It's Team Raw, which is Kurt Angle, Braun Strowman, Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, and Triple H, versus Team SmackDown, which is Shane McMahon, Randy Orton, Bobby Roode, Shinsuke Nakamura, and John Cena. It feels like someone pressed random on WWE 2K18, and that's what, like, random 5-on-5 match, and you got that match, What are your thoughts on that? I mean, there's a bunch of credible guys in there, but it just feels so random.
Right. I mean, the only real obvious thing going on is the Shane versus Kurt rematch kind of aspect of it, which is cool, but it's like they're both older guys. Something crazy is probably going to happen, but we're not going to get like probably a whole lot of these guys flying through plate glass or anything. It's just going to be it'll be a busy match for sure. There's a lot of characters in there still, but overall it's probably just going to be kind of messy, and much like the end of a Thanksgiving meal, I'll just be kind of getting through it.
Joey.
Yeah, I think the one interesting element for me is the Shane McMahon versus Triple H aspect. I'd like to see what happens when they kind of confront each other for the first time, being brother-in-laws or whatever they are. That should be cool. I think Braun Strowman and Samoa Joe might end up having some problems with each other at some point, even though they're on the same team. I could see some issues, along teams. So. Cena coming back, that's pretty cool, I guess, right? Because he hasn't really been around, right, and too long.
No.
I mean, I think his last match was that one pay-per-view, so it'd be cool to see him come back, Big Match John. So I think overall, you'd think on paper Team Raw would kick their ass, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know. I think Team Shane wins somehow, honestly.
I can see like Braun Strowman turning against Team Raw and Team Shane winning, Team SmackDown winning. I think it was great for John Cena to come back because it kind of gives it a little bit of balance, like adding a big name like him to the SmackDown team. I think, like Ryan said, I think it's just going to be really messy, and I think out of this we'll get a couple of storylines to build up either to Royal Rumble or WrestleMania or something like that. Maybe they build up Shane versus Triple H or something, interesting like that. So I think more than the actual match, it'll be interesting to see the fallout of this. And I do agree with you, Joey. I think Team SmackDown's winning with some sort of weird stuff. Maybe, like I said, Braun going crazy or something like that.
Maybe the Undertaker comes back. Who the hell knows?
Yeah, I saw someone was already at the Toyota Center, and they're selling Undertaker T-shirts at the Toyota Center.
Well, I mean, it's Houston, so
Texas, man, he's not far. The Undertaker's not far.
Yeah.
It's a possibility. You heard it here first, even though you're going to hear this probably after. But
yeah, look at the timestamp.
Malaysia's going to hear this. Malaysia people are actually tapped into our live feed somehow. They're actually that.
Yeah, I think they're live tweeting this. It's in Malay. It's in their language, of course. So
yeah.
All I saw was Undertaker and a bunch of stuff.
Well,
so
we are the last podcast in Kuwait, by the way. I checked the rankings.
Oh, we're the last one. Oh man.
Yeah. So I got major heat in Kuwait right now. The Kuwait Wrestling Federation I plan on opening is not going to end up happening. So
you got Jim Cornette heat in Kuwait.
Yeah.
But I mean, it balances out. First in Malaysia, last in Kuwait.
Yep, that works.
All right, so that's that for Survivor Series. A couple of other items that we want to cover. Chikara had a big event yesterday. A couple of news items that are really important there. Max Smashmaster, I believe, wrestled his last match according to his Twitter. Some of the best moments of Chikara after the reset were with the Devastation Corporation and Sidney Bakabella. So he'll be sorely missed. The memories were great. I still have all the merch, which is great. So
yeah, me too, for sure. I wear the shirt all the time. Yeah, I guess he faced Quack, which is pretty cool. Dude, that sneaky Quack, man, he keeps coming back for those matches. He's going to be full-time one of these days soon. Maybe Reckless Youth will even come back. You never know, right?
Dude, maybe he'll get a call. He'll get the call to New York to be on 205 Live.
Yeah, shit. I'd be interested. Maybe I'll turn it on then,
And then Silver Ant also wrestled his last match for Chikara, which is kind of a bummer. I see Ryan shedding one lonely tear.
Yeah, and he thought his tweet out was kind of interesting. Do you guys see that?
I did kind of see that about the antenna being ripped out.
Yeah, that was just kind of interesting, the way he just kind of tweeted that. I guess I can read it real quick. My time as a wrestler for Chikara has come to an end due to my antenna being unceremoniously removed. So I want to thank everyone who's ever supported me, everyone I worked with, and all my trainers and mentors. I've been so very lucky, and you've all been great. So very interesting. See what happens there. But it looks like there's no ants left. Is there you can think of?
Fire.
Is he still remaining? Okay.
Yeah, Fire's still there.
Well, we'll see how long that lasts.
Ryan,
have
any
a
thoughts?
weird fucked up storyline where like fire ant like spawns a bunch of other ants and then dies.
Wait a minute,
like,
you
they
have
eat
some.
them alive.
Oh, I thought you had. Never mind. You got a bee business, right? Not ants. Okay, I was thinking maybe
That's correct.
involved somehow with the.
Dude, man. He's with Solar Darling and Huckabee. Aren't they like the
Oh
Rumblebees?
yeah, that's right, dude. You're the third
The
trio.
Rumblebees.
The King of Trios 2018 is going to be Solar Darling, Huckabee, and our friend over here, Ryan. That's the trio right there.
I don't think so. I don't think the chemistry is there, unfortunately.
Well, who knows? That'll probably be in Germany.
Right.
Yeah, that was such a backbreaker. I hate beating a dead horse, but like not having trios here just kill.
That was a bummer.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it now.
Have you watched it yet? Because I haven't.
No, it killed my
I
enthusiasm.
have.
Right?
I have it. I haven't watched it yet, but I have a. And that's a good segue to my visit to Arena Mexico, Arena Mexico, to watch some CMLL just really briefly. I don't really follow CMLL all that close. I think I'm starting to pick it up again now, but I was there for a work trip and stopped by Arena Mexico. The gimmicks outside are ridiculous. These dudes had like shows that had aired, like the Rev Pro show for UK. The Bootleggers had it, and it had aired the day before. They had all sorts of crazy stuff. It was really interesting. The lucha culture there is a little bit different. There was a lot of things that the crowd was shouting to the wrestlers that would never fly in the United States or Europe. The wrestlers were, they were calling people, let's see, like homophobic slurs. You know, the crowd to wrestlers calling them homophobic slurs, like stuff like that. And everyone's like it's normal over there. Like everyone's like shouting all these crazy stuff. One wrestler, this older lady was shouting something at him, and he called her something like, really bad, like an old bee, whatever. It's crazy.
Oh man, you guys make sure PW Girl Gang knows to blacklist CMLL, dude. You might want to let them know on Twitter. Might let CMLL know, like, oh man, watch out for them, because clearly they're huge. Matt Striker's fucking shouting them out on Ultima Lucha Trace.
Yeah, I guess the one good thing about being blocked by every single member in the whole entire thing is I don't get to see any of their shit whatsoever. So it actually kind of works out to my benefit, to be honest with you. So
I saw something the other day. Someone tweeted out, "What's the funniest reason you've been blocked on Twitter?" And mine was because I'm friends with Joey Shoots.
I'm sure about a half a dozen people probably could have put that as theirs too.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So CML is really cool, and we're gonna tweet something out. I'm gonna give out. We're gonna give out a little bit of a CMLL Arena Mexico prize pack to a lucky fan of Talkin Gimmicks, some stickers, some keychains, some buttons. No pins, because F that.
Are we allowed to win? No, because I didn't know about this.
Oh no,
extra shipping costs to Malaysia, right?
Yeah,
it is.
So state that up front.
Our friends in Malaysia, it's $10 shipping costs.
That's
just right off the bat.
Cheap too. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. This is like the slowest I can get to Malaysia is $10. So, yeah. All right, cool. So, anything else we need to talk? We have a bunch of like NXT Takeover stuff, but I think we could do that on a separate episode because there's a lot to really dissect off of NXT Takeover. So with that being said, this is a good point for us to transition into our retro wrestling, which is kind of the bread and butter of our little show. and we picked the Survivor Series, which is the Survivor Series from 1990. There's a couple of like big things here, and we'll get into it. There's one real big thing, and then there's a lot of like gimmicky 90s wrestling, which is most of it. Had you guys watched it before we watched it for the show, or was this something first time view or what?
I've seen this before. So what, you know, the big thing is the reason why I've seen it, to see the debut.
Joey, I'm sure you've seen it, right?
Oh yeah, I've definitely seen it live. You know, back in 1990, and then I'm sure I've watched it a couple times since.
I have a lot of fond memories about this because I remember following this, you know, back in that time frame. I was a little kid, and I remember they built up the whole gobbledygooker thing for weeks. There was an egg at all these arenas for weeks. And I'm like, there has to be something really cool for this build-up. It's probably something crazy. Maybe this like crazy tag team's gonna come out of there. Maybe someone, you know, God knows what, right? And we'll get into that. But that was one of my biggest disappointments early on as a wrestling fan was the egg and the gobbledygooker at Survivor Series. So let's get started with the actual show. Hartford, Connecticut, where the Whalers used to play, Hartford Civic Center. And this is straight up old school Survivor Series. There's no singles matches. There's no tag team matches. It's just straight up Survivor Series team matches, which I wish they still did. Like, I wish it was still straight up Survivor Series matches. I don't know if you guys, what do you guys think about that? Or are you cool with how, you know, they're doing it now?
I feel like it would do something interesting for the TV build-up element, and it would be nice if they would kind of revive the format.
Like they could have done so many cool things, like the Miz and his goons against someone, or the New Day like pairing up with the Usos against like stuff like they could have done with the current storylines. A lot of different teams. So I'm kind of bummed that they're making it into Proving Rights, which is the old Raw versus SmackDown pay-per-view, which sucked. So, you know, that's why we have the classics, right? So we'll get right into it. The other cool thing I really like about it is that the teams had names. Like they would name the teams, and I was as a little kid, such a sucker for that. So the first match we had the Warriors, which is a team of Legion of Doom, Animal and Hawk, the Texas Tornado, otherwise known as Kerry Von Erich, and the Ultimate Warrior. They went up against the Perfect Team, which is Demolition of it was Axe, Crush, and Smash, and Mr. Perfect with Bobby Heenan and Mr. Fuji, who Bobby Heenan I think was Perfect's manager. Fuji was Demolition's manager. What are your overall thoughts of that match, just in general?
Well, the team of the Warriors, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of intensity there.
Yeah,
that's my number one.
I think just back then there was just larger than life characters too, you know. So
it felt like it seems like everyone was like coked out of their minds.
The promos were very intense, man.
Like
more intense than the last.
Maybe, you know, it's the 80s, it's the 90s, you know, that whole coke culture. I don't know, man, but everyone was way too amped for. And the funniest part, as a kid, you know, you don't really, you know, in that time frame, I wasn't really thinking about it. But now that I look back, they're so amped, and then when they get into the ring, everything's really weak. You know, It's like first, and then the in-ring stuff was like second, and it was a more of a cartoony era, of course. We had all of that. The Warriors wound up beating the Perfect Team. The other really important part that I think this is probably my favorite part, was that the survivors, and this is back in the day where you had clear heels and faces, right? The survivors of each match were then inserted into another match at the end where all the heel survivors go up against all the face survivors, and then there's only one team, the heels or the faces. And that's something that back then, because you had the very well-defined lines of who's a heel and who's a face. Right?
I think the interesting thing about that is, so you brought this up a couple times, is the now versus then, and I think that applies really well in terms of WWF. But like that's one thing that in Chikara, right? It's so clear they got the Technicos and the Rudos. So I think that's interesting because that's something that Chikara still does a lot of these interesting, weird formats like this that really do still kind of work on that level because they have that clean, like ethical split, right? So they can make those bad guy, good guy teams.
No, that's a really good point. They could probably integrate that in some sort of like Cybernetico tournament or not or Atomicos or something where the survivors each face each other. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting match. Because at one point, you got both tag teams getting eliminated by disqualification. Hawk, Animal, and then Smash and Crush there. So makes sense because they were feuding at the time, and then you get Mr. Perfect was feuding with Tornado. So it's a good choice for the opener because Warrior is the champion and popular as ever. So good way to kick off the Survivor Series show.
I thought it was kind of weird that their two biggest champions, this is the Warrior and Perfect, who had the Intercontinental Championship, and I think. If I'm not mistaken, like Warrior wasn't feuding with anyone in this time period, so he was kind of like up in the air. A lot of how that company was still working, where they had the main event was basically Hulk Hogan's team. So even though he didn't have the belt, he was still the draw.
Right. Well, real quick to mention the commentary team, it's Gorilla Monsoon and Roddy Piper. Now, just an interesting note, the previous 3 years, it was Monsoon and Jesse Ventura, but Ventura was fired by WWF in August of 1990, so you would assume he probably would be in the spot in place of Piper, so kind of an interesting fact there.
Piper was pretty wild on commentary. He was kind of...
He was drunk,
for sure.
Definitely drunk, I would say.
He was probably whacked out of his mind.
To be concerned for his health.
Yeah, he was amped.
He was really fixated on the word survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure they had a production meeting and they probably said something along the lines of like, make sure you emphasize on the survivors of each match moving on to the next match. And he probably took it super literal, like survive. And he said it a bunch of times.
Even in non-Survivor Series matches.
It's true.
He would be like, survive. I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah. So the Warriors wound up winning with the Ultimate Warrior being the sole survivor of the match, and he'd move on to the final match. So that gives way into the next pairing, which is the $1 Million Team, and this is, I guess, the highlight. The dollar team of the Honky Tonk Man, Greg the Hammer Valentine. Right now, I think it was part of Rhythm and Blues. Ted DiBiase and a mystery partner that Ted DiBiase had brought in, going up against the team of the Dream Team. So it's the $1 Million Team versus the Dream Team. I don't know if Stokely Hathaway had the rights on this because they used Dream Team in a Survivor Series. So he might get a cease and desist. We don't know. Of Bret Hart, Jimmy Emble Neidhart, the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, and Coco Beware. So on paper, pretty good balance of teams. And of course, the $1 Million Team was accompanied by Jimmy Hart and Virgil. And this is why this Survivor Series is in history, because the mystery partner was the Undertaker, then accompanied me to the ring with Brother Love. As a kid, I was like, holy crap, this guy is like the scariest dude in the world.
Yeah.
being shocked.
See, they bill this as the debut of The Undertaker. Technically, he actually debuted at a Superstars taping a few days before this as Kane the Undertaker, but this is considered his real debut. So,
Kane the Undertaker, I didn't know that.
No. Yeah, look at the size of that ham hock at one point, I think Piper said. So I couldn't wait to get that one in there. Yeah.
Piper is just nuts, man.
Oh, yeah.
The match winds up being, it started, and I think this was another really important part of this match this is where they began the push of Bret Hart as a singles guy. They gave him a good showcase in this match where he puts up a good fight against these other guys. But it starts out with The Undertaker just basically starts squashing him, right?
Right.
Yeah, he started out with Bret Hart. Undertaker and Bret Hart started out. Took him down with a one-handed choke. So, yeah.
And I think Coco Beware, the first person on WWE live TV who eats a pile driver, the first elimination. That's another noteworthy item here. And then, not going to break down each of the eliminations, but the relevant part is that The Undertaker, to protect him, he gets eliminated by countout.
Wait, real quick.
He was.
Did you notice when Undertaker eliminated Coco Beware that his back was facing the hard cam?
Oh no, I didn't notice that.
All right, you're gonna have to rewatch that just to try to look at that because I think he fucked up. That's something I picked up.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's new to that world, so I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, The Undertaker. I think it was Jason Dusty Rhodes.
He was someone was attacking Brother Love, and then he ran out to protect Brother Love. So I think maybe it was like Coco Beware was attacking him, or
yeah, he was either Coco or Dusty. It might have been Dusty when they had just eliminated him, and he went after Bret Hart eliminates Greg the Hammer Valentine, and then ultimately Ted DiBiase.
Oh yeah.
With just a body press, you would never see a finish with a body press nowadays. But back then, I guess that was a flying body press was impressive enough. So Ted DiBiase, the sole survivor, he moves on for the heel. Then we get, for me, maybe one of the weirdest moments of the Survivor Series. It's, we transition from commentary to backstage, and you have Mean Gene Okerlund interviewing the Vipers, which is Jake the Snake, Jimmy Snuka, and the Rockers of Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, in the showers.
Yeah.
And like in the actual showers, and that was really weird. Like, why? I didn't get why they were doing that.
Oh no, busy arena, man, and not a lot of free, quiet space.
Mean Gene said something about the snake like in the moist area, I believe, or some weird shit like that. Even too, it got a little weird, man. But shit, this is 19.
It got really weird. Like as a kid, you don't really think about that. Like you're like, oh shit, yeah, that makes sense. The snake needs Damien needs some water, whatever. And then now that I looked at it, it totally caught me off guard.
Jake the Snake's eye too was fucking brutal looking, man.
Jake the Snake had the whited out eye after taking the model Rick Martel spraying him with the cologne with arrogance in the eye and kind of blinded him. And I do like how this is one of those things that I think commentary back then did really well, was that sure, maybe the in-ring stuff doesn't hold up to modern times, but the commentary was so good at selling storyline elements, different things like that. Because if you notice, they sold that whole thing that Jake the Snake was blinded in one eye. They sold that hard. Like, oh, he's approaching them from the left or the right, whatever side he had the good eye.
His right side was his good eye.
Because all these different things, and that Jake the Snake's trying to keep the combat close because he can't manage spaces with the blind eye and all that stuff. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought they did a great job doing that, selling that.
Yep. So into the match we go. It's the Visionaries. It's the team captained by the model Rick Martel, alongside Power and Glory of Hercules Hernandez and Paul Roma, and the Warlord, who back then I thought was cool. Now I'm like, that's really goofy. Along with Slick, that you may remember him as a manager of Akeem the African Dream. They wound up defeating the Vipers of Jake the Snake, Jimmy Snuka, and the Rockers. And I will say though, like I remember as a kid, I was like really impressed by the Rockers because they were doing stuff that no one else was doing, and that's still you can still tell that they're much more athletic and they're doing more athletic things than the big muscle guys. So that was pretty cool too. And this is another one of the first. I think this is a first in WWE history where the Visionaries, which is Rick Martel's team, had a clean sweep. They all survived that match.
Right. Thanks to the arrogance.
Yeah. I thought now it's really funny and goofy that the model has a giant button that says, what is it? I'm a model. Did you guys notice that when he comes out in his blazer, he has a giant button that says, I'm a model. I thought that was really goofy.
That's funny. Yeah, that is pretty goofy.
Yeah, this was a basic match, faces failing could pretty much do anything here. It was the first time that all the team members in a team lasted until the end.
Yep.
But babyface Michaels and Jannetty, it's kind of cool seeing the young Sean.
The one last thing I had on this match is that Roddy Piper makes a reference regarding Jimmy Snuka. He says something like, "You would have thought he got hit on the head with a coconut." He's like acting all crazy, and that's a callback to Piper's bit when Piper clocks him with a coconut. I thought that was pretty funny and interesting.
He called back to his own bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, next is you get the big promo though. Hulk Hogan and his team.
Awesome. Hulk is amped, man. Hulk.
Oh yeah, Tugboat, Duggan too. All of them, really. If you think about it.
Those dudes. We'll segue right into that promo. So the Hulkamaniacs of the Big Boss Man, still rocking his little Cobb County uniform with the little Confederate flag on the side. Big Boss Man, Hulk Hogan, Jim Duggan, and Tugboat against the natural disasters of the Barbarian, Dino Bravo, Earthquake, and Haku.
With Jimmy Hart.
Hogan with Jimmy Hart and Bobby Heenan, right? Isn't Bobby Heenan out there?
Yeah, Heenan also.
Yeah, he's there too. Because Hogan attacks him. And I mean, in terms, I think, of just straight up wrestling, first match of the whole card.
Yeah.
It was like really bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, you had the larger than life characters. But I mean, one of the funny parts was Jim Duggan going nuts and just starts clocking everyone with the 2x4, and he gets disqualified.
A quick interesting fact about this match: Rick Rude was supposed to be on the heel team, but he left the company before the event. He was storyline suspended, so Haku replaced him.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to get. I looked up some interesting facts about this event, other than the pay-per-view, to try to get a little backstory here.
It wound up being sole survivor, of course, Hulk Hogan. So right now we've got Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior against the entire team of the Visionaries and Ted DiBiase before we get to the last match of the traditional Survivor Series. You know what? This might have been worse than the Hulk Hogan match. Before we get into the match, we'll go through the teams and then get a little background. So the teams are the Alliance, which is the Bushwhackers, Butch and Luke, Nikolai Volkov, who's now Super American, which is weird. and Tito Santana against the mercenaries of Boris Shukov, Sergeant Slaughter, Sato and Tanaka, alongside Mr. Fuji and General Adnan, who is the Great Sheik. Sergeant Slaughter cuts this batshit crazy promo about that he's all for Iraq. And
well, they've been building it up this whole time, that, you know, the whole patriotic angle, and how they're showing the pay-per-view at all the bases all around the world, so all the soldiers are watching, and they're protecting us, and they're making sacrifices out in the field, you know. So, I mean, they've been building this up big time, and he comes out.
That's one of those things that it's very much of its time. I don't think that'll ever happen again. Where we're at, because that was during the Operation Desert Storm,
right?
I believe.
Yeah.
So like we're out in military conflict, and it's like you could imagine if they had a character nowadays that was like Al Qaeda or
right, an ISIS character,
or an ISIS character. The WWE would get
happen.
Like they would get eaten alive. It's never going to happen. So that's one of those interesting little tidbits of a product of its time. And it's interesting to see how they booked that in a time where people thought that was okay. And fast forward to today, you're never going to see a heel that's pro ISIS walking out with an ISIS flag. So,
yeah.
Just imagine the backlash.
I think a funny thing here was when Slaughter basically said he mocked the American soldiers in the Middle East for not having a good turkey dinner like he had. And then Monsoon called him a despicable piece of garbage. So just funny little shit like that, man. Made this good.
Yep, and not to bore everyone with the details, but the sole survivor is Tito Santana, who's obviously best wrestler out of them. Tito was doing some pretty cool stuff. Like he was doing the flying forearm. He was a little bit more athletic.
Right, absolutely.
So we get into the soul survivors, or whatever you want to call it. The ones up being three faces: Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Tito Santana against Laurie, Rick Martel, Ted DiBiase, and Warlord. Before the match, there's a really funny promo that Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, and Tito Santana are cutting. Hulk and Ultimate Warrior are cutting out Tito Santana.
It's all Warrior, dude. He is just he's standing in front of him and pacing in front of him and flexing, and turning his back to the camera at times. He has no idea what he's doing.
Warrior is not going, like, he's just out of his mind, whacked right there at that point. Tito Santana's trying to get in and, like, trying to put his bid in,
At least be seen, I mean, he gets like 5 words in the promo, but at least give him some coverage on the camera.
Tito Santana totally gets screwed in that promo. Hulk and the Ultimate Warrior take over. Joey, any thoughts? I know before the show you were talking a little bit about that too.
What's that? Sorry.
The Warrior.
Promo where Hulk Hogan.
Oh, just all the promos, man. Fucking were just half the time I feel like they didn't even know what they were even saying. And like Warrior, I'm not sure what he was even going for here.
Just covering up Tito Santana. Like, I mean, I think he just wanted it to be all about him somehow. I mean,
sure.
In his mind, it really was.
And then after the promo, they come out and Roddy Piper says something about like describing the team and how the Hulk Hogan team has a chance. And he goes about Tito Santana. He says, I don't remember the precise words, but the context was more or less that Latinos are very fiery, and that's why Tito Santana is going to bring it. And I'm like, that's another thing you can't really say on TV nowadays. You can't make a generalization like that.
Exactly. I mean, dude, he's a whole character. I mean, Tito Santana is a character, and then Roddy Piper's just like, well, he's Mexican, so.
So he must be very fiery and feisty.
Yeah.
All was missing that he was like says something like very picante or very fuego or something really. it's just funny how that's how they would do the stereotypes of each different culture. And on paper, it was supposed to be, once you had Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior, even back then you knew they were not going to lose to Paul Roma and the model Rick Martel and people who weren't elevated to that level. And truth to that, like Tito Santana limits the Warlord like 5 seconds into the match.
Well, before we get to the match itself, I think we glossed over the main reason we're here.
Ooh, the gobbledygook.
Somehow we were just going to totally not mention that.
No, dude, I like selectively
it after this. Okay.
I selectively had erased that from my mind. I keep trying to erase that from my mind, and it's just not happening. So, let's leave that to the end because we're already a little bit into the match.
All right, okay.
The match winds up being, like super weak. Yeah, it's pretty bad booking. I think I did like how Roddy Piper was selling the strategy of the heels and how the muscle guys were weakening Santana and whomever, and Ted DiBiase was a finisher. He has holds that'll finish a match. I thought that was pretty cool. But outside of that, there's nothing eventful. Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan are the sole survivors, because of course, and it was.
Well, I guess the main thing is like it's a 5-on-3 for the heels, so the story clearly is about if the faces can overcome them. You know what I'm saying? So like back then with the crowd as hot as it was too, it's just like you had to expect them to go over. Like you're saying there.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's again the story, right? The insurmountable odds, and can Hulk Hogan and the Warrior
but not
do it?
Tito Santana.
But not Tito. It's like thank you, Warrior. Thank you, Tito. Not you, Tito Santana. Thank you, Hulk Hogan. I felt bad for Tito Santana because he was getting the short end of the stick throughout the whole pay-per-view. He's the only one who got eliminated from the Heat and Face team. Like, fuck you, Tito Santana. That's basically
dude, if they were gonna treat him like that, why the fuck even have him in the match, dude?
I think the thumbnail for this episode has to be something about Tito Santana.
You know what I was thinking though? I was thinking he was kind of expendable in that match, like that match and the other one, because if they were gonna put Slaughter in the main, like they kind of wanted to save Slaughter's feud for later. I'm thinking, you know what I'm saying, with those two guys. If Slaughter was to be the one to go over in that match, so I guess I could see Tito kind of getting lost in the shuffle there with Warrior.
I think Tito had just come out of like a program like for challenging for the Intercontinental title or something like that. Like he was somewhat well regarded, but even then, like next to Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior, he was treated like a chopped liver. So that's the end. Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, they're coked out of their minds. They win. And then before this happened, we had, I think this might be one of the worst segments that WWE ever aired. We go from commentary to Mean Gene at this giant egg. I think shame on me for thinking as a kid that there would be something other than a bird inside that egg. Like, what was I expecting? Like fucking Sting to come out of that egg or something like that? They
were saying like dinosaur or like fucking aliens or something, I mean, they were trying to make you think that anything was possible there.
So the Mean Gene's up there, selling this whole egg angle crack. The crowd's ready for it. The crowd's like, this is gonna be like some crazy shit. Like maybe it's Great Muta, maybe it's like, Ric Flair. God knows what's coming out of that egg. And then it's a dude who happens to be Hector Guerrero. It's an actual good wrestler dressed up as a fucking turkey coming out of the egg, and the crowd, you can tell, like, there was a collective.
10 seconds for them to get really disappointed.
There's a collective, like, the bird comes out, the crowd, like, you can tell that all of the good energy was sucked out of that building in that moment.
Yeah.
In those 10 seconds, and they started booing mercilessly.
Yeah, it was bad. It was a bad
and,
segment.
And Gene Okerlund is the one who says, "What are you? What are you? A gobbledygooker?"
It's like we know that he had the name gobbledygooker in his back pocket, but he has to make it seem natural that it's happening, that he came up with it.
It reminded me a little bit about when Bobby Heenan, when Hulk Hogan turned, and Hulk Hogan comes out, and Bobby Heenan on commentary goes, "Whose side is he on?" You know, they kind of already, that's kind of the giveaway. In the moment, I didn't know, but still, you know. And then the Gooker grabs Mean Gene and drags him out to the ring, and then they dance for like 10 minutes. It was like 10 minutes of him strutting and dancing and goofing off inside the ring, like
it's like
I don't know,
thinly veiled intermission, basically. Like that's what the whole build-up of the egg was for. It was just a total time sink waste of time. Just wow.
Yeah, that was just. And you think he was in there the whole show? You think, or was it the type of gimmick where he's lit up underneath the egg like at a contraption? Because fucking that 2 hour and 20-minute show, that would be an awful thing to fucking do.
Jeez.
Fucking Howard Finkel probably passing him water and cigarettes while he's in the egg.
It had to have been a contraption underneath. But yeah,
I mean, I don't think he was in that egg, but if he was in that egg for the whole time, you know, you might as well fucking would have put Tito Santana in the egg, and you know,
yeah.
One of the worst segments. So, like, in conclusion, you get two really iconic moments in this pay-per-view. The debut of The Undertaker, which is like a high. It's like super high. And then the debut of the Gobbledygooker, which is like one of the lowest of lows. And I really feel bad for Hector Guerrero, who is behind this shoot, because he's an actual good wrestler. And, you know, I probably think Vince thought it was fucking hilarious that they're going to
I mean, this was even Thanksgiving, and this shit didn't even get over. You know what I mean? A turkey on Thanksgiving did not even get over. So.
No, people were not happy about it. Yeah, it's one of those things where, coming up on it, like watching this out of context and having no build-up, it's like, yeah, what could you expect to be in the egg that's going to hatch for Thanksgiving?
Right.
Except for a turkey. But
the fans wanted
they really
more.
Tried to sell you that it was something else.
Yeah, the fans really wanted much more than that. But
I honestly think that this, like, Vince thought it was hilarious, and everyone said, "Yeah, this is hilarious," even though they didn't believe it. But they were like trying to like.
They're like, whatever. It's a cheap way. I mean, like, we have to fill this time at some point. Like, Hulk Hogan needs to rest before the main event. So,
shit, they should have been like ahead of their time and have like the Nitro Girls or something like that come out and dance for like 10
band
minutes.
or whatever. Yeah, it could be like a time for rock and wrestling, right?
They could have had the Honky Tonk Man come out and do a song, like, you know, I don't know.
They definitely could have done a whole lot of other things that would not have been as expensive as building a fake egg that hatches and carting that shit around the country for weeks.
And that suit probably wasn't cheap either.
No. I mean, whatever. They can afford that shit. They probably still use that same one to this day.
I think they had the Gobbledygooker in one of the WrestleMania, like, old school Royal Rumble things. I remember seeing.
Yeah, I feel like it came back at some point.
Something about that. But anyways, anyways, I think overall it's what you expect from a 1999 WWE pay-per-view. You know, a lot of big characters, big promos, bad wrestling, good commentary. You know, that's usually how it goes. I mean, I don't know. I think it was good in the spirit of having, you know, brought a lot of memories back when I was a kid, building up to that. Brought a lot of memories of disappointment about the Gobbledygooker, memories of The Undertaker debuting and me being scared. You know, I think overall there was some entertainment about it. don't know what you guys have as closing thoughts.
Yeah, just one last little note about the Undertaker. I thought it was interesting that he debuted with Brother Love as the manager, and that his attachment to the manager was so clear with him being eliminated, following him out. Because even though, yeah, it's not Paul Bearer, you really see like a seed of what's gonna be like the real classic era of the Undertaker.
Shoot.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like the main takeaway was the Undertaker's debut, the most memorable part. I think every fan should probably just, if you're really gonna, if you have time, just seek out that part. You know, definitely do that. As far as that, the rest of the event, mostly forgettable, like you're saying. The Undertaker's debut was the best part. Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan were the two biggest stars clearly at this time. You could tell both their egos were huge and just on top of the world. So couldn't imagine what it'd be like to be them at this point, you know, really. So other than that, not the greatest show. Out of 10, if you had to give it a rating, what would you give it overall? What would you guys say?
I give it. I'd probably give it like I give it just because of the Undertaker, probably like a 4.
A 4?
Oh man, that's pretty bad. I'll
What do
give
you
it
guys
like a
have?
6.
That's all right. 6. What about you, Jay?
I'll say 4.6.
4.6.
Yeah.
Wow,
Just
you're
because,
that
like,
guy, huh?
there was star power, but I mean, the matches just kind of fell flat. You know, there was nothing like really, really like memorable. I can't really. There's not too many things I took away from the matches themselves right now that I'm sitting here like and could tell you back. You know, so like I
We
said,
need to tweet at Meltzer to see what his thoughts are on Survivor Series 1990.
Just go back
He
and look it
probably.
up, right? I mean, it's probably got one published.
That's true.
oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I think. What do you think the best match of the show was?
I want to say probably maybe the $1 Million Team against the Dream Team.
Yeah, that's my favorite match.
I think Bret Hart had some good moments. The Undertaker, of course. DiBiase. I mean, I think overall that maybe was the best one. Definitely the worst ones were the Hulkamaniacs against the Natural Disasters and the Alliance against the Mercenaries.
That was the worst one by far.
What about you, Ryan?
I kind of like the opening contest, but yeah, Dream Team versus $1 Million Team was pretty good.
All right, so I think the last thing I had on this is that you could obviously tell that there was like the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan, a giant gap, and then like everyone else in terms of how like star power. And they didn't even have like a good antagonist for these guys because you can obviously tell it's like a transition where they're building guys like Bret Hart, guys like Mr. Perfect and DiBiase are intercontinental level, maybe not like championship level. So there's a lot of disparity between the heels and the faces, and I think it's part of it is product of its environment and time, but also because Hulk and Ultimate Warrior were just larger.
Yeah, I think Hulk and Warrior were kind of tapping into something that we've seen grow and grow now. But beyond that, really, yeah, you're looking at the kind of the gears of what was moving wrestling at the time, right? I mean, you've got Ted DiBiase. Really, he's the standout heel throughout the show, and he's some kind of more of a shenanigans-y kind of a heel anyway, right? So I feel like that's where they were at, definitely at the time.
Cool. All right, I think that does it for our Survivor Series recap. We'll check Twitter for what we're going to take a look at in the upcoming weeks. I know we've got the Thanksgiving break, so probably not going to have a show until another couple weeks. So be on the lookout for that. Joey, I know you had some closing stuff too.
Yeah, well, first off, I'm looking forward to Survivor Series tonight. That should be pretty interesting to watch the current batch of stars, see what they can do with the show. Um, I think it would have been cool if there at least would have been one match where it would have been a championship on the line, the champion versus champion to kind of maybe like spice things up a little more. But I could see how that wouldn't work, with the brand split and shit like that. But again, it would be kind of cool to have a guy go back and forth from both shows, and kind of spice things up. But yeah, as far as I'm going to be, let's see here, Black Friday upcoming, a little less than a week, going to AIW out in Cleveland, Ohio, about a 4-hour drive for me. They're putting on a pretty good show here, Hell on Earth 13, featuring the return of Jimmy Jacobs versus Colt Cabana. You got Tim Donst versus Nick Gage for the Absolute title.
That's going to be batshit crazy.
Yeah, you get
All awesome.
Ego. Yeah, All Ego. Ethan Page is on the card. Hot Sauce Tracy Williams versus Filthy Tom Lawler. I don't know if you've been following any of that stuff, but Lawler made the transition to wrestling, which is pretty cool. So
cool.
Looking forward to that. I'm actually going to see Joe Sposto in person, so that'll be cool to talk to him a little bit.
Hey.
I think we're still a part of the network, so I guess I could plug that real quick. At STBN Network on Twitter, if they haven't changed the handle. I mean, it's been a long time. So
I haven't received a pink slip from Joe Sposo, so I'm assuming that we're still part of the roster.
Yeah, I think we might be. Good to be back. But yeah, we're on Twitter as Talkin Gimmicks as a group here, at Talkin Gimmicks. I'm at Joey Shoots. I'll let you guys promote yourselves.
You'll find me everywhere at Wordview, WORD View, VIEW.
All right, and I'm at Julio, JULIO _DA. My timeline nowadays is a lot of Los Ingobernables and La Sombra and all those guys. So if you're into that kind of stuff.
You posted a cool pic recently with a couple of those guys, right?
Yeah. I ran into Naito and Hiromu Takahashi outside of Rio, Mexico. I think that's my tweet that's gotten the most traction of all time. So,
Yeah, man, that's cool.
Yep. All right, so I think that does it for today. Malaysia, thank you guys. That's probably the main reason we're still here. For the 2 people in the state of Texas that listen to us, shout out everyone else too. Kuwait, not as much. We're last place, so I think we're right behind a bowling podcast. I would say. I think.
Yeah.
It's a bowling podcast, like the Arabian Bowling Association's podcast. So, that's it sucks, but we're going to try to build our brand back over there. We'll see how that goes. But in the meantime,
let's just invade the bowling leagues, man.
We need to do like an invasion angle.
See how that goes.
All right, guys. Take care. Till next time.